I was so into industrial music at the time that I remember having my PlayStation and being in Blockbuster Video looking for something to rent and seeing the front cover for the next game we're going to talk about while we're talking about industrial music soundtracks. But just a quick aside, the concept of industrial music being on a soundtrack for a video game is not new. As you can see, it goes back a very long way, and you can see the influence in things like Command and Conquer or Quake, and I mean, the list goes on and on that features industrial music artists. Last week we talked about Gran Turismo featuring Cubinate, and but I remember this little top-down game that it had this crazy cover for PlayStation, and it just jumped out at me, and I was like, I'm gonna rent this. And I noticed on the front cover that it said featuring music from Populate itself, and it was part of the reason that I rented it that day. I was familiar with Populate itself because at the time they were on Trent Reznor's Nothing Records record label. That eventually went under. But at its prime, it had a huge roster of talent. Nothing Records was comprised of bands like Nine Inch Nails, Marilyn Manson, Meat Beat Manifesto, Pop Will Eat Itself. I mean, the list goes on and on of really great industrial artists. And the soundtrack for Loaded featured some remixes of some Pop Will Eat Itself songs. Pop Will Eat Itself sort of walked a strange line. They weren't just an all-industrial band. They were this strange industrial kind of electronic pop rock. Some of their contemporaries at the time that Populate itself was getting started were bands like Apollo 440, and man, it really grabbed me from the moment I heard it, and it fit the soundtrack really well. It was about all these insane asylum people trying to get out. You pick different characters and you're just basically murdering your way out. It was very much reminiscent of something like Hotline Miami, which would become a huge success much later.
More like Poop Will Eat Itself.